And for years, I didn't do anything on social media. And again, like after getting burned in this divorce with this just disastrous torture that I went through, the last thing I wanted to do was put myself out there. Like I was like, I don't want anybody to see me. I want to be invisible. I'm traumatized. Like I don't want anything to do with that. But then I kind of just realized the only way to build the future that I want is by taking those opportunities and running with them. So I just started saying yes to these things, and then I got all these other opportunities from that.
It's kind of like, focus more on the journey as opposed to the destination, and it seems like more things fall into place that way.
Right. And I think a lot of times too, like my vision for what I think I want, when I get there, I might be like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. So I think a lot of it is almost redirecting where I'm going by what I'm learning along the way.
Welcome to Mosaic Minds, the podcast where every episode is a colorful blend of perspectives, ideas, and conversation. Each week, our diverse team of hosts brings their unique backgrounds, experiences, and interests to the table. Mosaic Minds is your invitation to join the conversation to see the world through a kaleidoscope of viewpoints. So grab a seat, tune in, and let the mosaic unfold before you.
It's all over the place, so it's fine.
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of Mosaic Minds Podcast. I'm Nick, this is Jason, and tonight we're joined by Brittany Racine, real estate pro, TV host, and entrepreneur. Welcome to the show. Kind of tell us a little bit about your background and where you are now and how you got there.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I am a real estate agent in Michigan. I've been in real estate for almost 12 years now. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. I went through a divorce about 6 years ago that kind of redirected my career, I would say. At the time I was dealing with obviously the divorce and like a business that my ex-husband had that I then had to take over. So I feel like that really sucked a lot of my time for a few years. So, really in the past couple of years, I moved 2.5 years ago. And my kids are in school full time now. They're 11 and 9. So it's really freed up a lot of time for me to focus on my business and kind of rebuild what I lost in that huge mess that was going on a couple of years ago. And now I am just really doing real estate full time. It has been growing fast and really rebuilding at a pace that I didn't really expect, but it's been going great. And then from that, I was selected to be a TV show host for American Dream Network, which is a TV show on lifestyle and real estate, and they select real estate agents from all over the country, and we're able to showcase different communities throughout the state and kind of highlight different businesses and the real estate within that market. And it's kind of just like another marketing tool that obviously supports my business, but is a great networking opportunity as well.
Absolutely.
So I've been doing that since July. And I don't know, I feel like since I started rebuilding my business from the downfall that was my life a few years ago, I've kind of gotten a lot of different opportunities that aren't even really related to real estate, but I'm kind of just the yes woman right now. And I'm just like, okay, let's try it. So I've just been doing all these different things, and other opportunities have come from those, and in business and real estate and referrals have come from those. And it's just been like a huge, expansion of exposure for my real estate business, but also kind of just like, I feel like I'm watering all these different plants, but I don't know what they're going to be yet, but I'm still watering them. So right. I'm just going in a million directions, and everything is definitely on the rise.
Help the audience at large here for the Mosaic Minds podcast here. What area of Michigan are you in?
I live in Brighton, but I am it's probably about 40 minutes outside of Detroit, Ann Arbor area. So in between Lansing and Detroit. I
saw a picture when we were doing some research today. You had a property in, was it Traverse City possibly?
Yeah, I got that one from the TV show, but I work with my mom. I've been on a team with her. She's been in real estate close to 20 years. I started with her 12 years ago when I was pregnant with my son. And we're both so different, but we complement each other really well because we are so opposite. And so, yeah, we're all over the place, like Traverse City, Detroit, St. Clair Shores, which is east side of Michigan. I mean, obviously she lives right outside of Ann Arbor and I'm in Brighton, so we're about 25 minutes away from each other, but we're really all over the place.
Is she the one that got you into real estate, your mom?
Yeah. So when I was pregnant with my son, I was doing personal training and kind of part-time marketing. That was when the economy was kind of crazy and it was really hard to find a job that was worth traveling for. So I liked doing personal training, but I had like horrible morning sickness. So I was sick all the time and it was hard for me to like get up and move my body when I was dizzy and like nauseous all the time. And she was so busy with real estate that she was like, I need somebody to help me. Like, would you be interested in like getting licensed just to be an assistant? And I was like, I don't want to work those hours. Like, you're working all these crazy hours. Like, we're going to butt heads because like I said, we're very different.
Yep.
So I was like, this will never work. I don't want to do it. But it sounded like it was worth a try. So I got licensed. And obviously in the beginning, I was doing, my roles in the beginning were much different than they are now. But I mean, it's taken a long time to really evolve into what it is now. And I feel like right now we're really like, we know our roles, we know what each other do, and we're like just knocking it out now.
I want to tip my cap to you first off. So if I'm not mistaken, were you on a billboard in downtown New York City? I saw maybe a rolling clip.
Yeah, that was
Talk about that a little bit.
So that was a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and like I said, I feel like I'm just the yes woman right now. So I'm doing all these things and I don't even really know. I'm not looking at it like, okay, this is the outcome. I'm just looking at it as the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then it kind of all pieces together when you look backwards, like, okay, I did this because, you know, all these different, this exposure and opportunities have come from it. But it's hard to plan that looking forward when you don't know what the opportunities are and you don't really know how they can benefit you where you're at. But if you don't put yourself out there, you don't get the opportunities. And for years, I didn't do anything on social media. And again, like after getting burned in this divorce with this just disastrous 3 years of torture that I went through, the last thing I wanted to do was put myself out there. Like I was like, I don't want anybody to see me. I want to be invisible. I'm traumatized. Like I don't want anything to do with that. But then I kind of just realized the only way to build the future that I want is by taking those opportunities and running with them and putting myself out there for opportunities and to learn how to, I guess, use my own strengths for, you know, building my future. So the more I got to do that, the more I did that, the more things came. And I just was like, there's nothing I could literally fail at that's going to be any worse than what I've already gone through. So I just started saying yes to these things. And then I got all these other opportunities from that.
Yeah, I love that. I can really resonate with your story because I have a similar story like that. You know, you get to the point where you almost want to give up, but when you have kids, you know, you can't exactly just roll over, right? So, yeah. So, but I, you know, the fact that you talk about your divorce and failed business and that kind of thing, went through something really similar. And I'm kind of where you're at, where it's kind of like, you know, focus more on the journey as opposed to the destination, you know, and it seems like more things fall into place that way.
Right. And I think a lot of times too, like my vision for what I think I want, when I get there, I might be like, this isn't exactly what I thought it was going to be. So I think a lot of it is almost redirecting where I'm going by what I'm learning along the way. But in the same sense, I'm still getting somewhere and I'm still getting ahead. So I might not know what's best for me or what is ahead that people need from me, whether it's sharing my story or whether it's, you know, helping other agents or it's doing something completely different or designing their houses or whatever it is that I'm doing. I can't even know that I'm good at that or people need that if I don't put that out there.
I really like that because in the commercial real estate end, I think you got to know what the 32nd floor looks like before the foundation. I think if you build a wide foundation, and I have that same strategy, not to be too personable, but I fish, I play pickleball, I like to invest, I like to know real estate people. I think once you get yourself in different avenues and areas, I think before you know it, you're sourcing deals or you're getting to pick your projects as opposed to you're sitting there for 6 months waiting for something to happen. It's like almost like opportunities come to you. A very similar situation is we interviewed a guy named Rob. He's a kind of a magnet there in the Louisville area, and he made a comment that just blew my mind. He said that he lets stuff come to him and he doesn't even plan his day, but then by 1 o'clock, he's so overwhelmed, he has to let stuff, you know, kind of go by or pick out what they're going to do. Because as you well know, you can always be going to a dinner, a coffee meeting, a meet and greet, a showing. You know, there's just so many hours in the day that you have to do. So I want to commend you for that, for, you know, getting a lot of avenues going at once.
Thanks. Yeah, it definitely is hard to schedule things because I could wake up and be like, oh my gosh, I have all this time to build whatever this is I'm working on, like whether it's a marketing campaign or making a reel or doing something that I'm like, oh, this is like my downtime work when I'm like at home in my sweats and I'm going to get all this stuff done that I need to get done. and then I get called to something immediately. And then I don't know, the next thing happens and it's like 9 o'clock at night and I'm like, shoot, now I have to start all my things. And like, I have kids and they're with me, 90% of the time. So I have sports that I have to juggle and they have to eat and like homework and all these other things. So sometimes I don't get to the back end stuff that I need to do until late. But yeah, it's juggling a crazy schedule all the time.
Talk to me a little bit about what you think. I'm going to stay away from politics. We kind of promised you that. But let's just say this. Let me give a basic comment. I think that America is going to thrive. I'd like to think. Talk to me a little bit about the real estate market, what you think with the interest rates, what you maybe think about the homes in the area you're working in. And I don't want to guarantee this, but it looks like you're a little bit of a higher end market person. It doesn't seem like you have any of the very basic listings, which I think is good because, as you well know, you want to be on the top of that spread. But I'll kind of give that to you and let you take that any direction you want to take it.
Yeah, we really do across the board. Any price point, pretty much any location, as long as it's reasonable. I mean, we do have like amazing luxury homes that everybody wants to see, but then we also have your everyday single family home that we have often also. And I think right now, at least the areas that we're in the most, there's always like a slow point around an election where people are kind of frozen and they're like, what do we do? Do we move now? Do we not move now? But especially in like Brighton and Ann Arbor, there's so much coming into these areas that obviously the interest rates are going to have somewhat an effect on it. But honestly, there's so much money moving into these areas that it's really not affecting it a whole lot. Like the value is here because the communities and the businesses around these areas, at least the ones that I'm primarily in, are building so quickly that people need homes. And people are making so much money now. Like that's I think what's most mind-blowing to me is even though interest rates are higher, there are people who are significantly younger than me that are buying multi-million-dollar houses. Like
wow.
Often. So I think that even though interest rates are high and the values of homes are higher, people are making a lot more money, especially in these areas. And in the areas that maybe are less expensive, they're building those ones up as investment properties. Really, in anywhere that's surrounding Metro Detroit, the values are going up regardless of what the interest rates are. I mean, I did notice a huge kind of halt in the market fall of 23 because the rates were 8%. And kind of then everybody stopped because they're like, okay, rates are just way too high. But I mean, if you're in a good area, people are going to move in there. People have money. They make it happen anyways.
Jason mentioned Rob earlier, the guy that we had on the show before. And he did a lot of stuff especially with his client listings and things like that. He did a lot of stuff with AI. Do you use much of that? Do you use much of the ChatGPT and that kind of stuff?
I mean, I'm learning to do it. I think it's kind of hard. It's funny to see other agents and how they use it too. Cause I feel like real estate is so trendy, but there's so many agents that there's a lot of them that are they're like, what is AI? So they're just starting it. And it's really easy to see okay, I know that's AI. Cause they use the same words, that nobody actually uses. But I think I noticed it the most in people's listing descriptions or the remarks that say welcome home to this beautiful whatever, those. Always, you can tell those are AI, or you can tell if they're AI or if they're not, 1,000%. AI it's evolving every day. And I think that I am not that techie. So I have to learn about it regularly to know what's going on or how to utilize it the best way. I know there's so many different ways that it can affect different businesses, but I don't have customer service where I would need someone to constantly be sending messages or whatever. But I do use it a lot of times just for ideas.
Yeah.
So I think right now I'm doing all these different things and I'm super creative, but after I get creativity burnout where I'm my brain is dust. I have no cool ideas for anything that I'm going to put out this week. I'm brain dead because I'm just overwhelmed sometimes. And I've pumped out all this different creativity that's been so original to my own thought process that sometimes I use AI to just generate new ideas for me. I'll say create a list of whatever questions and then that will be oh, and then it re-triggers my brain to get back into my creative mode. Cause sometimes I just get stuck on I'm brain dead right now. I can't push any further.
Yeah. It's great for that, especially the one on the phone. You can just kind of talk to it. It talks
yeah,
back.
So entrepreneurially, I have a fishing lure company, and I was blessed enough to be on a small magazine cover here locally. And we had a networking event to where, I don't know, it's kind of stuffy. It was kind of higher end than I kind of like. I'm more of a casual dude. But anyway, you got to meet each person for, say, 90 seconds, 180 seconds, 2 to 3 minutes, okay? Left field question for you. If you're at a networking event and I'm deciding who to list with, and there's 10 to 15 other brokers or individuals that are listing similar homes to you, what is kind of your elevator spiel of where you position yourself, who you like to work with, the value that you're adding to the prospective seller would be the question that I would have for you.
One thing that I think I do differently is I don't sell myself to the person first. I think the cringiest thing on earth is someone that just sells to everybody and constantly tells them why they're amazing. I hate doing that. Most of the time when I actually talk about real estate, I don't even talk about that first. I'll meet someone. I don't even tell them what I do because I feel like that's cringy. And then they're just thinking that I want something out of them. And that's not what I'm about. But then obviously the more I connect with them, they know what I do based on, following me on social media or, I don't know, seeing what I do just by being around me. And I think that's more my style than to just push onto somebody what I do. So I think my first thing that I do is really try to get an idea of what the person wants. Not what I'm going to do for them, but what they want. Because I think a lot of times agents will just say, this is what I do, and I do it great because this is what I do, and I do this to every single person, and this is how it works. But not every single person has the same goals. Not every single person has the same house. Not every person has the same timeline. So it's like putting a diet on somebody, putting the same diet on every single person and telling them they're going to get the same results. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing that I do is make sure that I understand exactly what they are looking for. And then I like to tailor my marketing plan around their goals instead of what I do in my timeline. I like to do it around theirs. And then if there's ever a time where I really need to like flex the credentials, which I hate doing, I mean, you've seen what I'm doing. It's not anything that anybody else around here is doing. And I don't like to push that first, but if they're curious about my experience, like I have the flex to back it.
Absolutely.
With Times Square and all the publications and everything that I've done and the TV show. I just don't like to lead with that because that just sounds cocky. Like, hey, all I care about is you picking me so I can make you money, instead of, hey, what is your plan and how can I help you the best?
Just a quick comment, and then I'm going to throw it back over to Nick. But the Mosaic thread is actually, I've said this often, but basically the Mosaic thread to me is looking in a church that has the stained glass windows, the sun's shining through there, and it kind of makes a different, unique perspective depending on the angle of the sun and things. Mm-hmm. The weird analogy that I'm using right there is you're doing those projects, you're separating yourself, you're constantly doing different things. I think that's why you're a guest tonight, because you are innovative, you are doing different things. You're not just a traditional, what I would call a suit and tie person in my world, or stuffy. It's easy to deal with someone that is personable, that's going to tailor and be honest with you, and not be arrogant about it. I mean, you have the credentials, but let's keep it neutral. Let's move the property. Let's get to know the person and kind of go from there. But
yeah,
go ahead, Nick.
I think that's my least favorite thing is like someone that's crunchy. That's like, I've been doing this for 30 years. Look how amazing I am.
Exactly.
I think I call it crunchy. You call it stuffy. But I think I mean
I like
that
crunchy. That's good.
Crunchy?
Yeah,
Yeah, because
like
I mean, I feel like I have to deal with agents like that all the time. And they assume that I'm younger than I am, or I'm new at this and I don't know what I'm doing because I'm doing all these other weird things that are fluffy that nobody else does. And it's like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm just not crunchy and pushy and want to tell everybody how amazing I am for them. I'd rather just be who I am and help the person get to their goal.
Yeah, for me, that's always been the hardest part. I'm not really a salesperson. That's always been the hardest part of sales, was convincing somebody or selling somebody that you're not a salesperson. You know what I mean? Like trying to flip it around to where I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just being authentic. Now buy this. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that kind of thing. So your journey, you were talking about, it has a lot to do with bouncing back and all that. With that said, though, like you went into TV and you said that you didn't really feel like that was where you wanted to go because you kind of wanted to just hide for a little while. What was that like? Like, you know, because TV, if everything was going perfectly fine, TV if you've never done it before, can be really intimidating. So when you first started doing that, what was that experience like?
Well, I started with social media, and that I think was harder actually, because I was really presenting myself to my own people. You know what I'm saying? And it's my responsibility to, I guess, present myself how I want to be perceived. And I think that's scary because you never know how someone's going to perceive it. And you never know who knows what or who's judging you from what and who knows any part of my story or none. But I know there was a lot of people who were curious about what was going on because even though I didn't share it, something's going on. So, I mean, I was really private about things. I maybe posted like once a month, and then I would do stories of just like my everyday life with my kids. And if I was showing a cool house, I'd show that. But then I was trying to figure out how to grow my business more because I'm like, if I'm not making money, nobody has my kids. Like I have to build something for them because if I fall, we all fall. And life isn't getting cheaper. So
Yeah.
So I had to figure out how to market myself better, more effectively online for my business. And so I started testing kind of like different content strategies. And I realized that if I was in the video or in the picture or explaining it, it did like 500% better than if I was just showing it, which I hated because like the last thing I wanted to do was be like, hey, look at this house, But I think it made it more relatable and more personable, and people just connected better with that. So I just made myself do the cringiest things ever, and I'm still doing them, and they are still working. So I really just had to make myself do it. And I think the best way for me to do that was to read about it and learn about it and learn how to really change my thought process around how I felt about it and how I kind of judged myself and like put all this different anxiety on myself on not knowing how it was going to go and how it was going to be perceived. I just did it. And I just continued to do it. And I was like, I'm just going to try it for however long. And if it doesn't work, then I tried. But it's still not going to be nearly as bad as the failures I already went through.
Yeah,
so I just did it. And then the more I did it, the easier it got. And now I don't even care if I spell something wrong. I don't even delete it. I just leave it there because I don't even care. But from doing that, that's where the TV show came. So the TV show.
Oh, cool. So you obviously were doing well. Yeah. If they picked you up.
So I didn't seek them out. They reached out to us from all the different social media stuff that I was doing.
What'd your kids think? Like, because I don't know how old your kids are. My youngest is 15. But, like when I do anything on social media, they're always like, oh my God, Dad, oh my God, like were they supportive or were they like, oh, come on, Mom, don't embarrass me? You know what I mean? Like what was that like?
Well, they don't have social media because they're only 11 and 9 and they're boys.
Fair enough.
They play Fortnite and like run around the yard and play football.
Gotcha.
But I don't know. They think I'm cool. And they're like, I just told my son, I was like, I got to go record this. So like go to bed. Okay. And I told them, I'm like, it's like a podcast that they do like YouTube stuff. And they like, YouTube is really cool. And they're like, oh my gosh, you should just, like my son just told me, he's like, you should do these like YouTube shorts every day and just like talk about what you're doing for the day. You'd be famous like immediately.
That's awesome.
But I'm like, what's a short? Can you tell me? I need him to help me because all the platforms are so different. I cannot master them all.
Nick's our tech guy, but you'll get about 6 shorts, if you will, 60 to 90-second clips throughout the week every day until the next episode.
Good. Maybe I'll start now.
It's just the same as like the reels that you do on Facebook or or TikTok or whatever. It's just the portrait, short clips or whatever.
Okay. Well, maybe that'll be my next thing since I have so much spare time.
So I'm really curious. In real estate, I think you have to be innovative. I think you have to stay ahead of the curve. I think you've got a really good base. Let's just say you have 90% of it figured out. Okay. What's a random place or like a funny story that you have of maybe gaining a client where you least expected it? An example at the grocery store or over here in a weird conversation where you're out in the community. Kind of take that question.
Oh, sorry, my dog just farted really loud. So that was really distracting me. Where's a weird place I met a client? I can't think of one that like I immediately met. There has to be one. I'm trying to think because I can only have the ones that I like just did in my head right now. But I'm also so friendly that I meet people everywhere. So it's like you go out and you go to the bathroom at the restaurant. Like I will meet someone in there and be like, oh my gosh. Or I went to Home Goods the other day and my boyfriend was like, why were you at Home Goods for so long? I'm like, I just went full shopping with this girl and I don't even know her name.
Of course.
And then like a week later, she found me on Instagram and she's like, oh my gosh, hey. And I'm like, are you my Home Goods friend? And she's like, yes.
That's
like
cool.
Like weird stuff like that. So I don't know if it's been necessarily like first time I meet them and they're ready to sell, but I meet people all over the place in random situations like that and they'll follow me and I'll follow them back. And then they know I do real estate. Because like I said, I don't just immediately be like, oh my gosh, I do real estate. Let me tell you about it. Because I hate when people do that about anything.
Nick always says that about me, and I don't realize I do it. I'm not saying you don't realize that, but yeah, you're saying the same thing. If you're at a grocery store, whatever the opportunity, a restaurant, it doesn't really matter because they're actually seeing you. And then, oh yeah, that person knew this. And then, but before you know it, they got a listing or an uncle that's selling, and you kind of go from there. So let's step away from the real estate. Let's step away from the TV, the real estate and entrepreneurship. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. But what I'm going to ask you is, what do you do away from all the activities we've talked about up to this point? What's maybe a hobby or two that the general audience that's seeing you for the first time would want to know?
And all your free time.
I love when people ask me that. My friend asked me the other day, she's like, what do you do for hobbies? And then she replied and goes, I don't know why I just asked you that because I don't even think you have time for hobbies. But I feel like my hobbies right now are really, I don't know, going to my kids' stuff. I love going to like their sporting events, and all the moms, like we all wear the most ridiculous stuff and just like go hang out at the football field while the kids play. Like, I know that doesn't sound like a hobby because it's really an obligation because I have to take them there and, do all the mom stuff. But it's really become a hobby, and I love that. Like, I have so much fun doing that. But besides the kid stuff, I'm like an avid Pure Barre person. I go to Pure Barre every day. So it's a workout that's right down the street. I go every single morning. It's part of my routine. It helps me really like focus on what I need to get done for the day. So that's, I guess, a hobby. But again, like, kind of just normal maintenance and routine, but I feel like it's a hobby.
Real quick, what is Pure Barre? Like, I've never heard. Is that a type of like a type of workout?
Yeah, it's a bar workout. So you have like a ballet bar, and I was a dancer for like 20 years. So okay. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so easy. And then I was a personal trainer before that too. So I was like, this is going to be so easy. I work out all the time. And it was so hard, but so effective. And I've been doing it for years, and that's the only thing I do. And I feel like it's the easiest way for me to just like maintain, and I don't have to worry about what I'm eating. I can just eat pizza because I'm going to Pure Barre in the morning. So I'm good.
I do some Pure Barre.
I got to laugh at myself. I got to make a quick confession. So my wife takes me to a water aerobics class, right?
That sounds fun.
And I know I've got some extra pounds and stuff, but my cardio is still pretty solid. But make a long story short, this lady literally says she has 2 heart operations in the last 2 years. That's the instructor, and she's at least 65. And I consider myself mid-30s back some years ago in decent shape. And I'm over there after like 15 minutes with both arms on the side of the pool and like huffing and puffing. And my wife's like, what are you doing? Because they had you tread water for 5 minutes with a 3 to 5 pound weight at your ankles.
What is this, the Navy SEALs?
Yeah, and I'm just like blown away that, it was so hard. So that's what that reminded me of. But anyway, so when you see the real estate trending in the direction it is, scale of 1 to 10, how hot is your market? And then I'm going to follow up with a question behind that.
Ooh.
With 10 being on fire, it can't get any better, and 1 being more
of
to
like
desire.
The specific town that I live in?
Yeah.
I would say like an 8.
Okay, fair. Fair, good.
Yeah, things are going pretty quick.
Now, random question. We're in Hoosier country, okay? And I don't want to get too controversial, but Ann Arbor's obviously Michigan. I got to ask, from a sports perspective, are you kind of in that Michigan or Michigan State area?
I lean Michigan football.
Okay.
I mean, I'm only like 15, 20 minutes from Ann Arbor, and I grew up like right outside of Ann Arbor. But I mean, it's hard not to like love them after 2 years ago when we won.
Absolutely.
We had a little rough year this year, but we hung in there a little while.
Kind of pinning the map for our audience to kind of target exactly where you are. So the next question I have is it's my opinion that as interest rates drop, your first-time home buyer is able to get in and get more home. And then I think as that happens, I think the depletion of the market, the houses that are there deplete, which makes it more of a premium. At one time where we are, prices were actually so high that you would get above listing and multiple offers within 24 to 48 hours. I think we're 6 to 12 months removed from that. So fortune teller question. We have the same conversation a year from now. Are prices going to be heading more in the green, the black kind of stable, or are they going to be in the red over the next year, in your opinion?
They're still going over list price here.
Good.
I mean, I think it depends on the time of year that it is. But the more that interest rates go down and buyers get out there, first-time home buyers, prices are going up because they got to fight everybody now. Exactly. So it doesn't matter if you're paying, if it's at a 5 or 6% interest rate and you're waiting it to get down to, say it's at 6%, you're waiting for it to get down to 5. You're going to be paying so much more in the actual price of the home that it might not even be worth it for you to wait for that to go down a whole percentage, because not only do you have to overpay for the house, You also probably are going to have to put an appraisal guarantee in. So if the house doesn't appraise for the price you're paying, you have to pay that out of pocket anyways, just to ensure that you're going to get the house. So I almost think it's better for buyers I'm not saying 8%, but in a relative interest rate that at least you can secure a home without fighting everybody under the sun for it, and then refinance a couple months down the road when it goes down.
Now, I'm going to judge it just a little bit and correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm a first-time home buyer and I'm I call it biting off more than I can chew, getting too much house, are you going to tell that person, or are you just going to kind of encourage them? I kind of already know that answer, but I'm curious to see what you'll do with that.
You mean if they're stretched too thin on their budget?
Yeah, say my debt-to-income ratio is X. In my days, I did equity seconds, but it's been 20 years ago out in San Diego. So it was 28 to 36% of gross income could afford it in a mortgage. So this is not a personal story, but say I probably should be in 250 and I look for 350. How do you kind of advise and walk that first-time home buyer through that process?
I usually don't know their debt-to-income ratio. They go through all of that with their lender.
Absolutely.
They might say, hey, my budget is 450 to 480, but 480 is like, I'm maxed there. I usually am not going to send them anything that is at the top of their budget unless it's been sitting on the market for a while.
Got it.
Because they're going to, if it is something that's at the top of their budget, and you are in a spring market, say, or a market that's super competitive, it doesn't matter if they can afford it or not, they're not going to get it because somebody else is going to have a better down payment, a better appraisal guarantee, better financing terms that it doesn't matter. You're not getting it regardless. That's just how it is. But I feel like I'm a straight shooter. So I'll explain that to them going into it. So if they're like sending me all these listings for 500 and I know that they can't spend over 480, I'll just say like, the likelihood of you getting that is very slim. I will show it to you if you still want to see it, but I don't want you to fall in love with something and then compare that to everything that you're actually going to end up with.
Is that the majority?
450.
Is that the majority of your clientele is first-time home buyers?
I feel like last year I had a lot of sellers.
Really?
Which I actually really like. I love first-time home buyers too, but I think I've had more listings lately than sellers, but I mean, I get a couple a year. I wouldn't say that it's majority. A lot of them will be listing and then buying something else, or renting and buying something else, or coming in from somewhere else and buying something, not necessarily always a first-time home buyer. I love a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, I bet that's fun.
They're not.
That is cool.
It's maybe 20% of the time.
Okay. I remember like 20 years ago, it seemed like everybody was getting their real estate license. Like I had friends, even if they didn't use it, like I had friends who were like, hey, I'm taking my real estate test. You'll get my real estate license and all this through, usually it was through some company, one of the company brokerages or whatever.
Groupon?
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
So, but with that said though, like now the way that things are, do you think that, would you advise someone to get into that industry, into real estate? Or would you say, we're pretty oversaturated, probably not the best thing for you to aspire to right now?
People ask me that all the time because I think they look at the job like Selling Sunset and all these different shows. They're like, I want to do that. But it is not like that 99% of the time.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on the person and really what they're looking for and what they're already working with. Most of the time when people ask me that, my first thing that I say is, you have to have a secondary job when you're starting because you're not going to make any money in the beginning unless you have an insane network or you're on a team that's going to pump you with leads. But again, you're going to be paying them a large chunk of your commission. So I don't know. I think it depends on the person and where they are, what their network is, what their work ethic is. Like you have to be a workhorse and you have to be self-motivated to make it work. Mm-hmm. At least to sustain itself as a full-time job.
Regardless of where the market is, I'm going to place you on a pedestal like the Olympics, right? First, second, third place. I'm going to say you're already on the medal stand, right?
Okay.
How are you going to keep your medal stand over the next 2 to 5 years, regardless of the market in the real estate market?
I mean, I'm hoping to continue to grow. I think last year I grew beyond what my goals were, which was shocking, but I really was working at it every single day. And I feel like everything that I built on last year and was expanding on last year is really all going to come into play this year. So I don't see my own, I want to say, trajectory going down. Like I don't see my path going down at all. I see it going up because I'm doing more things and I'm getting more recognition. I'm getting more exposure. So as long as the market continues to go up where I'm at, I'm going to go up with it.
Yeah. You seem very innovative. I mean, like, all the different plates that you have spinning, In fact, I think you could probably go in like a coaching direction too, and get.
So many people tell me that
Yeah.
that's one of the things I'm watering. I just don't know if it's going to be like a tree or a flower. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Maybe probably
I'm
start out
watering it.
on social media, just like you did with the real estate, but probably just start out on social media, connect with the people that can relate, like I've been through this too, and that sort of thing. I would guess.
The Midwest, the Midwest inspiration I'm going to give you is, and I got to use corny analogy. Sorry, my family's been in education for 100 years, but we used to take an apple tree, right? And I don't know what you call it, but you would cut off a limb and you would pair it with another limb, and you would get a hybrid taste of an apple. Okay. So in other words, if you liked a juicy apple or a sweet apple or whatever, here's what I'm going to say. When you constantly are doing that and you're making, say, a flavor or a unique brand of apple, in your world, that's what you're doing, because you're out there saying, well, I'm in this area. I'm in this area. Well, I'm in this area. Coaching is a great example. So I think when you do that, the farming analogy and then your real world example is real estate's ever changing. You can't control where the market goes, but what you can control is where you're at. The fact that you can turn down projects is probably a good thing, right? Because most people don't have projects. The fact that the project came to you that you took is also a good thing. I think the opportunity is merging like the AI, the chat GPT. What's cool about it is I think you can be successful without using any of it. But I also know people that are using it as their assistants to where they almost are 5 or 6 people. So I think what's cool is you can continually climb each one of those ladders based on that. The reason I use that example there is because I don't think there's a blueprint for success in your industry. I think it's what you do, how you react, how you relate. Did you get that referral? Did you treat somebody right? Did you lose out on a deal because you gave them sound advice? Well, you're an honest person, so I'm going to work with you in the future for, you want that second home, third home, over that X amount of client relationship to the interstate world. So I think that's good.
I've noticed that real estate agent, just people in real estate in general, are very creative. Like they find little ways to stand out, amongst their competitors, whether it's, like giving all of their top clients cookies at Christmas time or, sending out cards or whatever. I've always noticed they have these little niches that they do. Do you have those kind of things
Personal
as well?
things?
Yeah.
For my clients, or you mean just in general?
Just in general, clients, maybe other people that you work with that, if you can't help a person, they can, and vice versa, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think one way that I've been able to relate to people besides just showing houses, at least through social media and bring people in, is I had people always ask me about what I was wearing or my outfit. And then I started linking my outfits. So I started doing affiliate marketing through LTK. So some people would be following me. Some people be following me for outfits, but they don't even realize I'm actually marketing them real estate. So even though they might not be looking for real estate and they're just looking at my shoes, if their cousin is like, hey, I need a house, they're like, oh my gosh, call the shoe girl. You know what I mean?
Of course.
So I think that was one way that I was, but I don't think actually anybody knows that that's why I was doing it. I think they thought I was doing it because I wanted to sell Amazon shirts or something, which I don't have time for that. If it wasn't I'm just doing that because it was another way to bring in a different audience that's going to potentially be clients for something. So I was doing that through houses, and then I did it through different kind of content collabs with other business owners in my area. I have an interior designer that I kind of connected with through one of my listings, and her and I will do content collabs all the time where we'll, meet up, or I'll go to a project and we'll talk about how she designed a house. So I think it's just kind of doing different, I don't know. I don't want to call them niches because they're not even really that relatable, but it's just being my own brand instead of being a realtor.
Right.
And it makes me more of a person than just a salesperson or a real estate agent.
The 2 piece of advice I have for you is this, and you've given us a lot of good stuff for the audience at large in the real estate and just other things. The number 1 piece of advice I have for you is your biggest competitor is your biggest ally. You won't believe how they can educate you and help you, because just because they sell more doesn't really mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. But if you can learn from them, I think that's good. And then number 2 that I've been using over the last 3 weeks, and it's got us kind of on a stratospheric kind of rise right now, is ask. I know that sounds really weird, but when you meet a network, don't be afraid to ask them, do you know someone? Who do you? And it's kind of common sense, but it's these people out here really want to help someone. But if you never ask them, you're not, in our world, you're never going to get that referral or big time rock star or someone there. The reason we found you, though, is your diversification of your portfolio. That's kind of the Mosaic thread. We don't like somebody that's stagnant, that's just a X, and that's all they do. They're off the radar. They're not doing a whole lot. So I think that's a strength of yours that you have going for yourself.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, I definitely think asking is huge because people don't want to ask. And a lot of times the people you're asking, it's not a big deal. If somebody asked me for something or you for something, we would just tell them the answer.
In worst case scenario, it's a no.
It.
I mean, who cares if you say no or I don't have time or whatever.
Yep. All right, got it. Yep.
What's maybe a project that we haven't mentioned up to this time that if you were given an opportunity to say, yes, that's a project I will do. Do you have anything out there maybe that, you've done TV, that's impressive. You've been on the billboard there. Is there any other things that maybe like a mentorship or a program or kind of take that one?
Yeah, you kind of touched on it with the whole, I don't know if it's going to be coaching or mentoring or whatever it's going to be. But I've been told for years that I should write a book and that I should be a motivational speaker just because I'm very headstrong. I mean, I know I'm super friendly and bubbly, but I'm also really tough. And I think that people need that a lot of times. I guess I don't even notice that I am as hard as I am. I'm just used to it because I've lived life and I've just always been like this, but especially through all of the hard things I've gone through. So I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm kind of watering right now that I don't really know what it's going to turn into, but I think it's going to turn into something. I just don't know what yet. I don't know if it's going to be some kind of, whether it's a podcast or a book or a coaching program. And I don't know if it's going to be branding related or personal development related or, trauma related or any of, I don't know. I don't know what direction to go in because I feel like there's so many things that I have experience in and there's so many things that people ask me about when I'm not even talking about it. I will get messages from people who are asking me how to get through something. And I'm like, I haven't even brought that up on anything. So I don't know how they know that I did that or that I went through that. So I think that there's definitely a need for that out there. And I'm still trying to figure out how to best service those people, but also in a way that makes sense for my lifestyle and my schedule.
Well, I'm excited to see where you're going to be in a year because you have so much stuff going on that I think that you're going to be in a totally different place in a year. I think it'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Brittany, where can people find you? If they want to see more, see some of your listings, whether they're in Michigan or not, they want to see some of your listings or they want to catch some of your social media or maybe even some future coaching, whatever it might be. Where is the best place to find you or to follow you?
So I'm on Instagram at Brittany Racine _. And then I'm on Facebook at Brittany Racine and I'm TikToking, but I always forget my name. Hold on, let me find it. I'm learning the TikTok thing, but I know a lot of people prefer that platform. So mine is Brittany Racine 643. And I really just kind of push everything that I share on Instagram over there.
Okay. So you put listings on there as well as your different talks and different things like that?
Sometimes listings. I feel like TikTok is a little bit more personal. And I feel like Facebook for sure is more put your listings on that. I put them everywhere because why wouldn't I?
Right.
But most of the time I think TikTok is less listings, more everyday stuff, whether it's mindset things, personal development, my outfits, my weird designing things that I'm doing with the house, stuff like that. Definitely some listing videos or some of the behind the scenes stuff from the show because those always are way more interesting than the actual show is the behind the scenes.
Yeah, right. Always.
I'd like to leave the guest with a kind of final thoughts or whatever, based on the interaction we just had, folks. You have somebody that's very innovative, that's willing to take chances, that's willing to show the human side of it. It's very easy in your position, with all due respect to you, to just tell all the successes you've had. You were willing to address those. So I think a little bit of adversity, a little bit of a comeback story, a little bit of, hey, I had to fight through to get to where I am now, and I'm already seeing the next level in the mountain climb. I think that's inspiring for anyone, whether it be real estate, life, you're depressed, you need mental help. It doesn't matter what you have. I think you're rising, and I think you've got a good base. In the Midwest, I don't want to say we're different, but in the Midwest, we're different. You know what I mean? We're family oriented. We want good things to happen. So we wish the best for you over the next year to 5 years. Continue to doing what you're doing. The market's going to boom, in my opinion. I think, things are headed, and hopefully, over the next X amount of time, regardless of office or politics or religion or anything else, we continue to see good things from you, and we're proud of you for your efforts up to this point.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being with us, Brittany.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.